So again, thank you everybody for coming this morning. We have a talk by Tam Ngo, who is an assistant professor at Radbound University in the Netherlands, but also research fellow at Max Planck, or what is the title now?
I'm actually a permanent research fellow.
Permanent research fellow, yeah, at Max Planck Institute for Study of Religious and Ethnic Diversity, and she's going to share about her research in Vietnam, particularly Uncle Ho, so Ho Chi Minh, and his deification. And so, Tam, we'll let you take over. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to this talk.
Yes. So thank you so much, Professor Yang and Chris, for inviting me here. Being colonized by the French, everything sounds Frenchy, appear very exotic and inviting, but at the same time also intriguing for me. So being here in Lafayette is a great honor.
That's what when you first arrived.
Yes, that is emotional part. But on the professional part, I have been a long follower of Professor Yang's work. I wrote on Christian conversion in Vietnam, and of course, your work is one of the few theories on the revitalization of Christianity in the country. But today I'm not going to talk about my Christian work, although it would be a more apt an occasion to share and get feedback. However, I today will share with you the one of the current research projects that I am doing, which is a popular deification of Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. In relation to the state cult, the state personality cult of this communist leader. So I intendedly to present something even more current, which is a piece I'm working on now on the aftermath of the rise of Ho Chi Minh. So after it got hold of the population, it got attacked by the state, and then how the follower of this cult react. Not only in narrative but also bodily reaction to the withdrawal, the spiritual withdrawal of Uncle Ho. But unfortunately, there are so many other reasons I couldn't complete that. So today I think I would introduce to you from the beginning how the cult of Ho Chi Minh, the popular deification of Ho Chi Minh, come about. And what does it say about the secular state of Vietnam? What does it say about Vietnamese society? So now let me see how that's here, right? So that's to start with. I want to give you a brief outline of the argument that I have in this paper, which is, in my view, the transformation of Ho Chi Minh from a communist hero to a national god, as well as a popular appropriation of the state-sponsored secular religion reflect the triangle relation between secularism, communism, and nationalism in Vietnam as a late socialist society. So I am not looking at Ho Chi Minh cult as something development as something entirely novelty, but I try to position it in the larger political context of Vietnam. And the emergence of popular deification of Ho Chi Minh is not a testament of a failure of atheism as a communist secular project, but it is a perfect outcome of a cross-pollination between secularism, communism, and nationalism. That's what you have to think of Vietnam. Vietnam is not only a communist country, it's a very nationalist country with own kind of baggage and burden that would decide the trajectory of politics and culture there. And why the state-sponsored Ho Chi Minh cult is best described as a product of sacred secularity, the folk religious movement Đạo Bác Hồ, which literally means religion of the Uncle Ho, exemplify what I call secular secularity. In other words, with the creation of Ho Chi Minh cult, the communist state has employed sacred means to create legitimation for a secular entity such as the state and own kind of organization and union that it has to organize the society. but in the opposite way, when ordinary people today, against the state will, appropriate the cult and make Ho Chi Minh cult their own alcohol religions, they have to employ a lot of secular means to legitimate their religious agenda. So you see the irony here. A secular state want to legitimize their authority, they have to use sacred means. But a basically religious society that want to legitimate their religious action and intention have to employ a lot of secular means to prove that in order to establish and to exist. So this is what I conceptualize as this relation between sacred secularity and secular secularity. This relation results sometimes in conflict, but these two practices inherently share a common belief in the sacredness of the nation state. So people and the state are fighting, but they both believe in this divine nature of the nation, of Vietnam as a nation, and Ho Chi Minh symbolized it in their own way. So the state is secular in its institutional and general political aim, and it means to create secular progress, but the nation state is sacred and use religious means to symbolize its secularity. Ho Chi Minh is portrayed as a figure that symbolizes the secularity of the state, and as such he transcends everyday politics. And this explains why people do not blame him for the concrete, unpopular political measure, which I will give you a few examples later. So with this outline of the argument, now I will show you some material, some visual material to show you how popular Ho Chi Minh is in Vietnam today. So the presence of Ho Chi Minh is impossible to miss in Vietnam public sphere today. Have any of you been to Vietnam? Okay, who have been taking a selfie with uncle? No. Oh, you miss out. How can? Well, as Vietnam's first president and the founder of the Vietnamese Communist Party, Ho is preserved by the state as a formidable figure, also literally. His portraits plus the bust statues are displayed in schools, hospitals, and government office. Parks, memorial hall, public square, and even public fish ponds are named after him. So in Vietnam, as a kind of urban design, own city in Vietnam should has a big lake or small lake, depending on the size of the city, and it is always called the Uncle Ho Pond, Ao Cá Bác Hồ. And it was a very interesting kind of development in the late 1960s, early 1970s, when America bombed the North. Many cities were left with big bomb crates. And one of the quickest and cheapest way of solving that terrible hole is to make it into a pond. It is in the moment of total mobilization. Even the pond have to be named after Uncle Ho. And since then, since the early 1970s till today, formal bomb hole are turned into Uncle Ho's pond. Well, that's one of the examples. Even when he was still alive. Yeah. And his embalmed body is available for public viewing in the Gigantics Mausoleum in Hanoi. That is really at the heart of the capital. Ho Chi Minh Thought Week is in 2003, has become an obligatory subject of study in universities, has been applied to virtually all matter of life, and cite the way Christians cite the Bibles. Ho Chi Minh Home Village became a popular pilgrimage destination, and his biography has been sanitized of any human and worldly details. His morality is promoted as a model for all national citizens to follow. In short, he was made the god of political religion in Vietnam. But as a wave of religious revival and revitalization swept the country in the years 2000, Ho Chi Minh's status as a god was no longer a metaphor. Throughout the Red River Delta, people claimed to be possessed by his spirit and gave witness to his being the truly powerful God. whose supernatural power can intervene in the affair of both the living and the dead. Uncle Ho, as he is commonly and affectionately referred to, has become a central deity in the religious movement, broadly referred to as Uncle Ho religion. As one of the most dynamic new religious movements in Vietnam today, Uncle Ho religion is practiced by several dozens of devotional groups, each centered around a charismatic leader. And importantly, all of the leaders are women. So there is no male Uncle Ho or cow leader, only women. And these groups vary in size. Some claim to have thousands to 10,000 of members, but others have just a few dozen or 100 members. And they also vary in their way of venerating Ho Chi Minh, either as the only or the highest ghost, or as one of the many deities in the larger religious pantheons of Vietnam. So so you can see here, these are few samples I can give to show how the state appropriate Ho Chi Minh figure after his death as a father of the nation, as the god of the Vietnamese political religion. This poster is very common. You can see it all over Vietnam, from urban center to villages. And this basically you can see a kind of Buddhist symbol used to picture Ho Chi Minh. Here he is the center of the lotus, like Buddha rising, or Kuan Yin rising out of the mud on the lotus. And his figure changes every now and then, because these are kind of Photoshop image of the original picture of Ho Chi Minh. Sometimes he looks a little bit more prosperous and voluptuous and wearing also nice garments. Some other time, suddenly this same picture make him look a little bit skinny and I would say a little bit like a skinny monk. It depends on where the poster is supposed to be hanged. Here is another picture of a rather big plaster bronze coaches status of Ho Chi Minh in the office of the, I think these are the traffic police in Ho Chi Minh City, where they, before they launch a New Year plan, they have to salute and make a report to Uncle Ho what they intend to do. And surely at the end of the campaign, the same event should also take place. And here I couldn't show the incense bowl, the whole set of fruit and offering that are there for Uncle. Or there is also a national-wide competition for the best design Uncle altar in public space, and the winner of this competition would get a great honor, get a medal, but also the model that he designed would likely to be the next model to be used in office. And these are real money also, because every time the renewal of office refurbishment bring people a chance to scrape some money out of the state pocket. So, but here you can see the symbol, how a circular office is a place for the displays of various religious symbols. These are so Ho Chi Minh as a leader of the nation currently, he continued the duty passed down to him by the Hmong kings, which is a mythical father of the nation in time immemorial. And in order to worship and make offer to Hmong king, you have to make this set of cake and fruit. And there's a whole mythical folklore stories about how this fruit, what it means, and so on. So officers are also recommended to set up their own home altar for Uncle Ho. And here is an example of the altar, the national altars, which is different from the family altar. So the family altar, you have the ancestor picture, and in the past a family tablet, but now you can replace it with Uncle Ho and the symbol that a little bit higher than the family. And to have Uncle Ho in the home, it's sometimes even cheaper than having a status of Kuan Yin, because you depend on your budget. You can have one with exuberant price of tens of $1,000s, but for just $20 to $50, you can get a nice, nicely painted plaster bust of him. And this is a picture I take in a newly built supermarket in my mom's hometown. So very easy, very accessible. And here is a picture of the living room of the former General Secretary of the Party of Vietnam, Mr. Lê Đức Mạnh. Mr. Lê Đức Mạnh is rumored to be the bastard of Ho Chi Minh, the illegitimate child of Ho Chi Minh. Because he come from Cao Bằng province, where Ho Chi Minh retreated to the mountain in the 1940s, in the years after they declare independence and the French return, and that is where he created the very intimate bonding with the people, and therefore also consolidate power for revolution. But of course, the other side of it is personal love life of him also have some story there. And Lê Đức Mạnh, as someone who come out of nowhere, suddenly be held to the national realm. He was a guest labor worker in Germany and being called back at a certain age to become the next one in line. And the rumor is always that it had something to do with the biological heritage he have with the revolution. So there are journalists, foreigner, I think a foreign journalist who posed a question, quite embarrassing one, in a big press conference, that whether you are the child of Ho Chi Minh. And he answered in a very diplomatic way. He said, well, Uncle Ho is the father of the whole nation. I am just one of his million children. But that's what happened in a press conference at home. General Secretary Lê Đức Mạnh have designed his home very aptly for the honor of the father of the nation. This is his living room. Everything is gold. So this picture was just by chance circulated once on a state media, and it sparked up so much discussion. Not only about the hinted alliance between him and Ho Chi Minh, but also the mere wealth that he smeared on the face of the nation that's still a developing country. So that's point the finger directly to the corruption practice of the state and so on. So against that general picture of how the state deify Ho Chi Minh in their own way and put a strict control on how the figure of Ho Chi Minh can be used, can be displayed, can be venerated. Since the early 2000s, there is this revival in popular religions in which Ho Chi Minh writes very quickly as one of the most powerful gods. Here is a picture of one of the two cow centers that I described in the paper. I would be happy to send the written version to anyone who is interested, because if I would read through it, we would not have enough time for discussion. But this is a cow center from around a peasant who was just illiterate, almost illiterate peasant, suffering her life through the hardest year of Vietnam, right outside of Hanoi, having some background in the family as family with marriage to the nation, namely her brother and her own husband served in the army. She herself was a militia for a period, but she came back without much recognition and suffered a lot of ailment till the point that she thought she was going to depart this world, but then it was that moment she heard a voice, and that voice forced her to write down what it is saying. And first she did it almost unconsciously. She had been writing hundreds, according to her, thousands of pages of ununderstandable messages. But when she deciphered this message, she figured out it was Uncle Ho, who practiced a form of spirit writing, but in this case a combination of divination voice to the control of her hand. So that formed the first route of Ho Chi Minh Sutra, which she would use as a ideological core to the movement that is going to create. In the year beginning of the year 2000, basically after 2005 to 2015, these are the golden years of this cult. From a very poor peasant, she is now, I think, one of the richest person in her province. And I went there with my collaborator, Professor Huệ Tâm Hồ Tài from Harvard University, and she said she never have seen a toilet that luxury as that one. so she has a moment of toilet envy there. So this cow leader gathered around her mainly lower middle class or poor peasants. But the number that follow her count are so many. I was there in 2012 at the occasion of Ho Chi Minh death anniversary, in which within 3 days, because they're talking about surveys, I do not have survey, but I work with a also very interesting character. He is a retired army military high-ranking officer, and he worked for a center called the Center for the Study of Human Potentiality, in which is a center that apply parapsychology and spiritism method to figure out whether the spirit exists. And when a phenomena as this Ho Chi Minh Cow Center with so many followers, with the claim of the leader that they can heal all kinds of illnesses, and they also can connect to deities of high status in Vietnam, the center sent him there to conduct a survey. And because at that time the center, the Ho Chi Minh Cow Center of Miss Dien, which is the name of the leader, was already under state attack. So they were also desperate for some measure of legitimation. So when this officer came, they opened the door to him and allowed him to distribute a paper on which anyone who visits the center should put out their name, brief history of how they come to the cow of Uncle Ho, and what they do and so on. So these are precious moments when the cheapest form of survey was conducted, and we got 15,000 filled. And there was still a whole bucket full with paper that people tear out of their own notebook and write, because they feel, I interview quite a number of people, and the common impression is that they misunderstood the survey as a moment of conversion. So they have been practicing this for many years, or sometimes for months, but no one recognizes it. And this is here an officer who give you a paper you can register, like you go to a government office and register your name. And so that's why we got this really wonderful set of data. I piggybacked the officer and got the data, but it was amazing. One lesson to be learned when you do research. But back to this center, this occasion is one of the examples I can prove to you how successful and how exuberant the movement was all the way till 2012, 2013. The core message of this cow center is that Ho Chi Minh embodied the purest, the good and the benevolence moment of communism. So they are not anti-communist. People who come to this center dress themselves up, even though when they are just peasants, they never has an alliance with any office, but they would buy a set of clothes that Gator in Vietnam would wear. Unfortunately, I don't have picture here to show you, but these are very typical clothes that you see government officer wear. So if you are of certain rank, or you see themselves, you see yourself heading to certain kind of position, you wear this, they call Tôn Trung Sơn coat, so Sun Yat-sen coat, with this collar. And these are designs coming straight out of Guangzhou. Very cheaply, easily, $10 you can buy a suit. So that is one way. The other way to dress yourself up to feel fitted to this occasion, being the devotee of Ho Chi Minh, is to get yourself a party member card. But many of these people are not party member. They are peasants, or they are just say free elements. So they create these cow centers. There are sub-centers that made this how you say esplatics. Basically they made a name card with the name of the Communist Party, the way the party membership card look like, but it's a fake one. Then they put it on. Or they can also create a card that show that they are member of army. So these are actions that people do that I made in my argument, that they employ various secular means, from the way they dress themselves to the language they use when they arrive in the center, the song that they sing. Like when you go to a church, you sing a hymn, but when you bring your offering to the altar of Angkor Ho, you sing and march in the song as if Angkor Ho is here with us today in the great victory. So these are one of the red songs that people in Vietnam are taught to sing from the moment they are in kindergarten to when they are in high office. And it can range from kind of children singing to high operatic style with big drum and big trumpets and so on. So that is the form. The contents, as I said, the Khao leader promote Ho Chi Minh as an embodiment of the purest moment of the nation in communism. But of course they are highly resentful currently to various state practice. I met a group of followers who are peasants kicked out of their own land because of the land confiscation and building up luxury condo and so on. So these are practices, they point the finger at the current state for doing so. But when challenged to the question that Ho Chi Minh was also one of the person who was important in the land reform, that was a moment that the first wave of people, of innocent citizens, were killed in the Vietnamese Revolution. People would then point out to the fact that Angkor Ho was not actually involved, and he was so painfully regretting afterward. And there is a famous episode of Ho Chi Minh weeping in front of the media. So there was this black and white footage of Ho Chi Minh cry and apologize to the nation for the mistake of land reform. So followers of this cult are aware of his story. So that's one sub-argument I want to make, that they are not ignorant of Ho Chi Minh. In his lifetime, they do not buy entirely the state propaganda picture about Ho Chi Minh, but they pick out elements that would suit their purpose. That is to leave Ho Chi Minh in their imagination the purest God who are benevolent and protective of youth. And by the way, the name for Ho Chi Minh in this cult are the Jade Emperor, no, not the Jade Emperor, the Jade Buddha of the Southern Nation. So Ngọc Phật nước Nam, that is the name of Ho Chi Minh as a god. So this is, and when you come to this Khao center, you sign yourself up if there is an occasion for signing up. Otherwise, you just go and pray at the altar of the Khao center, and you then you buy also a set of items that is sold at shop nearby, and you go home and set up your Ho Chi Minh altars. And this is the moment where conflict arises, because I have been talking up till now only conflict between the people and the state. But the arrival of Ho Chi Minh cult and the deification of Ho Chi Minh cult also create many fractions in the population itself. Because Vietnam is a country with multiple religious denominations, Buddhism to Christianity to various forms of popular worship like Đạo Mẫu and so on, the rise of Ho Chi Minh cult, exemplified by this center, claim that Ho Chi Minh is the one and the only God. And therefore, any practice of worshipping other God are seen as idolatries, and therefore heterodox. So there are families that the mother or the father come home with this set of altar and setting it up, and it creates a fight not only within the family but to the entire clan, because Vietnamese believe in the sacredness of the ancestor altar. If a child suddenly falls ill, if the son suddenly has an accident, they always look at what happened with the incense bowl. So in every home in Vietnam, people always have incense bowl. And the fear is that we say động hương, so tung xiang. Basically, there is some disturbance to the incense. That is a moment where you find the root for all the trouble that family suffer. And suddenly, when Ho Chi Minh come as a god, and the mother say want to turn the family into follower of Ho Chi Minh, they want to get rid of the incense bowl. That is a huge disturbance. So these account of conflict are what I describe in my writing. I can share it with you. Then there is also conflict with the Buddhist Sangha of Vietnam. Vietnamese government, of course, now like China, promote Buddhism as one of the national religions. So when Ho Chi Minh Cao leader rise up and claim that Buddhism is basically instruments from China to control Vietnam, and they are relentless in attacking various Buddhist institutions from local temple to the National Buddhist Sangha. They send troops to the office of Quán Sứ Temple in Hanoi to basically protest from state a peaceful protest, but with very insulting kind of slogan and account to Buddhism. So that creates another level of conflict. The third is more popular conflict between the Ho Chi Minh Cao group with other group like Đạo Mẫu. Đạo Mẫu is the mother goddess religion in Vietnam, which basically not everyone, but very, very large proportion of Vietnamese are following one form or another of mother goddess worship. Ho Chi Minh Cao rise up, and the Cao leader claims that worshipping of mother goddess is a fake form of religion. Basically, you are treated by this. We are more true. So very typical, this kind of new religious movement where real and unreal are worked out in real fighting. Well, here I have a video. I don't know whether I can play it, but just to give you a little picture of how this Cao Center, after it got really successful, it built another headquarters. So it has one very big headquarters, but then it decided to build another temple in the style of, it's amazing, it's a combination of Catholic architecture with window, with reaching out to heaven, with also with the Cao Đài eyes and basically the roof. But in order to decorate this temple, they need a status of more than 4 meters tall. Exactly is about 4.8 meters tall or something, in bronze, pure bronze. So it's a very costly business. It also have to be done by one of the oldest genealogy of people who made statues for temple in Vietnam. So from a province about 120 kilometers from the Cao Center where the statues should be housed. The moment they retrieve this status, a moment of a huge possession. They claim to have 20, 30,000 people, but I don't know. This is one part that they share with me, the material. We saw also a very large number of people parading in this moment of retrieving Uncle Ho's status. And then there has a moment of how you say, calling the soul of Uncle Ho to enter the status, hô thần nhập tượng. So, hú sấn chin xiang, something like that. Yeah, that's very quickly because it's also in Vietnamese and very noisy. So, but this is the procession starting at 12 o'clock at night and ended at 7 in the morning. That's so this is where they are. This is not the status, another one. So they receiving. Yeah. This is the introduction of the moment when they start building this. They also gather with them a big crowd who sing this song. This is the song about like Uncle Ho is with us today. Yeah. These are the selected group to be filmed because other people who are not dressed nice are not invited to see it.
all women?
There are also many male. There are many male followers. There are many male followers, but the very common in popular religious activity in Vietnam today is the aesthetic of it. and everyone loved to be photographed and have selfie, and so women dress better than men, and they are always very visible because we have this outside very, very colorful the long tunics. And of course, they are more photogenic than men. So these are another dimension of it, the use of media in this popular religion in Vietnam today. People are, well, not as professional as this, but they employ various means to make themselves visible. So these are the lesser part where the older auntie who cannot fit in the outside anymore. And then, but here is very long. I want to show you a part where they start going on the road. So another element about it is that besides employing a revolutionary song, think about a church. You have different kind of hymns, right? So there are one form of hymn is this revolutionary song. The other form is Buddhist chanting text. But these are not there are also many styles of chanting in Vietnam. We have Chú Thường Tụng, which is basically the vernaculization of Pali Buddhist text into Vietnamese, and then translating from Old Vietnamese to New Vietnamese, and it is sing in hard to explain, but it is the way people sing to children when they go to the lullaby style, or this is more the very popular down to earth Buddhist singing. Yeah, you don't need to be literate to be able to sing this song. That's the point. So various form, but I don't know where is a possession. Oh, maybe not here, but anyway, we are not having a lot of time. So just to give you some picture about this. Now, let me wrap it up by showing you that it has been a movement that started in the year 2000 until now. It has many different centers, but there are some dominant centers, there are some lesser centers. But as a kind of wave, it got along many other developments. So when the state decided to get involved, it was very hard for the state to do something about this particular religious movement, because they can crush a evangelical group. They can stop people to go to spirit medium, but they cannot stop people who worship Ho Chi Minh, because that is exactly the same thing that they teach people to do for decades since Ho Chi Minh died. And when people appropriate it and worship Ho Chi Minh in a way that that is against the state will, it's very hard for the state to do that. One example is in 2002, when the government staged a big procession in front of Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum, which is a typical communist style of reporting to the leader, but in a kind of religious procession with instead of carrying a malakeng with palanquins with statues of God, here they carry, say, a peasant unit carry the biggest watermelons, or the police carrying, I don't know what they carry, but this kind of secular symbol. On the same day, this cow group, together with another cow, also sent a troop of hundreds of people to go there and carry with them the book of Ho Chi Minh teaching, which is the cow leader sutra, she wrote a few years ago, and so on. And they was taken out of the possession by police, but the mere sight of this conflict, clash between the two, create already a very black stain on the history of the group, and the state only use it as an example of how they attempt to sabotage the state activity. So with the crush of the state, this cow center reduce its size and basically go underground. But the member who, the people who worship Ho Chi Minh are still overwhelmingly large in Vietnam. I don't have statistics to show, but people who have been worshiping Ho Chi Minh in 2012, I went back last year, they're still doing the same thing. The only difference is that they do not go to this kind of big gathering anymore, because these big gatherings are the moment where the police can get at them. The cow leader changed her style from organizing big mass like this into conducting more via telephone, and she has her own channel which people can follow. And also she rebuilt her house, and it was a miscalculation because she thought that her cow will expand even more, but in fact when the building she planned to be the next headquarters of the cows, hilariously built in the form a model after the White House in the US, with the tomb of the Capitol Hill. And the argument she makes for it, very loud and clear, is that in this moment when you cannot trust the state because they are in the hand of the Chinese, you need the support of the West, which America is a leader. So she built her place of worship for Uncle Ho in the style of Capitol Hill in order to absorb more this potent power from the West. So that element of anti-China in Ho Chi Minh Cow is very strong, which I hope to share with you in another occasion in a paper I'm writing on xenophobia and the rise of Ho Chi Minh Cow in Vietnam. But thank you.
Similar theme of the Mao cult, but also quite distinct from it. Yeah, many questions. I just want to start with perhaps a more background thing. What are the religions the government approve? What are the formal religions?
Yeah, the world religion. Yeah. Yeah. We have every 5 years or so, the Vietnamese government publishes a new white book on religion, and so there are new extra little groups that are added to it. But in general, Vietnam, I think like China, recognize 6 world religions. Okay. So these are Protestantism, Catholicism, Buddhism, even Islam. They are, and how many already?
That's 4.
And
Is Eastern Orthodox included?
No, they are. Well, this is subgroup, subgroup of Christianity. No, there are 6 world religions: Buddhism, Christianity, which is Protestant and Catholic, Islam, Taoism we do have. So these, it's just because these things are so common that I forgot to remember it. So there are official 6 world religions which everyone all over the world recognize. Then you have the other recognized local religions, which Dao Mẫu, which is Mother Goddess, and Cao Daism. Hoa Hao Buddhism is still in a gray area. They recognize half of it, and the other half they don't. You know the history of Cao Dai, of Hoa Hao Buddhism, right? So these are millenarian Buddhist group in southern Vietnam that rise up and have some conflictual moment with the revolutionary and the so-called. I think the rumor is that the leader was killed by the communists. So the fraction in Hoa Hao that still worship that figure and believe in that murder are not recognized by the state. Yeah. So.
But this kind of thing, does the government treat this as what? A superstition or folk religion? Why in recent years it's being suppressed?
Yeah. So Ho Chi Minh Cow, where does Ho Chi Minh religion come in here? Until now, it is still determined to be one of the superstitious groups that abuse the name of the national leader.
Oh.
So even worse than the normal, there are many other superstitious activity which was banned once, but then gradually get accepted, like the worship of Mother Goddess, which was one very superstitious. I wrote a paper on a local temple history of a Mother Goddess temple in Vietnam, and so different wax and wane of the policy to the moment it is recognized. But that form of superstition in Ho Chi Minh Cao, I don't see it will be recognized very soon in the future. However, within the Ho Chi Minh Cao, when the government attacked the movement, there are centers that make compromise and negotiate with the state. So instead of promoting Ho Chi Minh as the only god, that the Jade Buddha of the southern nation, they demoted him after 10 years being the only god. Now he is one of the many great gods of Vietnam. Yeah. But he's still a god, and you still can be possessed by him, you still can communicate with him through spirit possession, which is a full legitimation for making this cow superstitious. However, because of the use of internet in the last 5 or 6 years, there are several leakage of clips that government officer, current in office, high-ranking officer who went to spirit possession and get possessed by Ho Chi Minh. So then the claim that if you use Ho Chi Minh as a god and being possessed with him, that is how you call heterodoxy, cannot be applied anymore. Yeah. Yes, please.
Is it, I know that the symbol of Ho Chi Minh as a national identity and patriotism is everywhere in Vietnam. Is the Ho Chi Minh cult specific to the Red River area, or is it present throughout the country as well?
Very well put. Of course, when you know Vietnam as a country, the first question you ask is, would Southern Vietnamese worship Ho Chi Minh? Yeah. So to answer your question, that was also the question that my collaborator and I, as soon as we start, we get money for the project, we go to the south, because this is too good to be true. In the north, I mean, people worship Ho Chi Minh, it's understandable, but so in the south we went to, there are present a Ho Chi Minh cult, but more on the state side. So actually more, not more than the north, but the state in the south are no less than the north. In promoting the cult of Ho Chi Minh. So own temple, if you go to Mekong Delta, virtually almost all temple has a altar for Ho Chi Minh in their temple. But of course none of the temple make Ho Chi Minh the main god. And there was a run recently that one of the temple, newly built a Taoist temple, we demote Ho Chi Minh to the level that they use Ho Chi Minh in the temple as one of the Taoist god, but they make him a guardian god for the door. And that make officer in Hanoi really angry. We also met a few religious groups. These are, so I'm trying always to look at the state, what the state does and what people do without the approval of the state. There are a few groups in Ho Chi Minh and in Dong Nai province, which is about 50 kilometers from Ho Chi Minh city, that worship Ho Chi Minh. But then again, this group are not, we have not been able to figure out the entirety of their composition, but the majority are immigrants from the north. Who have gone to the south in after 1975, and they worship Ho Chi Minh. They also got up with them. They basically managed to convert quite a few of local population, but I think the local population are kind of lukewarm. It's unclear how fervent in their devotion, but they did send several buses to the museum, to the Nhà Rồng. This big museum in Ho Chi Minh City where they have this old boat where Ho Chi Minh went to France on. He left the harbor in Ho Chi Minh and they built a huge museum there. We went there. So they have a status of Ho Chi Minh there, one of the oldest one. And this group buses in with several dozen of women and men, and they set up their offering fruit and incense in front of that and create disturbance in the museum, which of course the state do not want, but that is the moment, the only moment that the state noticed their popular deification of Ho Chi Minh. But in that incident, the state, so I'm talking about the manager of this museum, see it as a good example So in half of a country where Ho Chi Minh is not a very popular name to be sought everywhere, and there are still this group who, without our encouragement, go there and worship alcohol. We also met one group, another group that led by a retired officer who donated his land in District 7, which is a very expensive real estate area, 500-600 square meter of house of land to build a shrine for Ho Chi Minh. But of course the ownership of the land still belongs to the family. And I think it's the scarcity example I have can only show that the cult of Ho Chi Minh is indeed dominant in the north, in the popular deification of it, and lesser in the south. And of course, it's quite easy to explain why historically. Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk about the organizational structure within the Ho Chi Minh cult? Because you said most leaders were women. What about the top leader? Are there also women, or the top leader are men, and then the kind of intermediate level women, or what's the gender relationship?
Right.
And what about the social class relationship?
Yeah.
Kind of the rich and the poor within the cult.
Right. Yeah.
That would be interesting. The hierarchy, if they have hierarchy.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So first of all, so if we use the lens of say the study on new religious movement to understand this, there is always there is always of course a question when a popular movement would establish itself, say rationalize itself and turn into a permanent standardized religion. I see it hard to happen with Ho Chi Minh cult. So talking about leadership in a kind of more centralized national, there is no national center for Ho Chi Minh cult. Anyone can tomorrow rise up and say, oh, I dreamed of alcohol last night, which is also a name of a song. We always sing, as a children, we sing, last night I dreamed of alcohol. So last night I dreamed of alcohol, and today I can start up a cult to worship him. That can be done. But there are few charismatic leaders who gather around them, this huge number. However, these people are not talking to each other also. So in the written version of my paper, I describe two centers. These are two most important centers in the north. The leader would not miss our chance to fight each other by word or by certain kind of spiritual action. They criticize the way the other worship Ho Chi Minh and so on. So it's very typical to new religious movement also, always like we are truer than you. But within each group, the structure of it is often that, like I said, the leader is always a woman. But in order for the group to move on, which is again the example of two cults that I analyzed in detail, the relation with male officer are essential for the group to succeed or to be able to survive or not. So like I said, the Vietnamese government have been denouncing superstitious practice all the way up till the year 2000. Then they recognize some form of spiritual practice which is used in the service of finding the missing body of war dead in Vietnam, the martyr. And with that, they legitimize the use of certain spiritual technology, and they legitimize it by the role of certain officer put in place. And it's fascinating in Vietnam, it is the highest, the most honored scientists, male scientists. There are also female scientists, but the majority of them are retired male scientists who, for instance, the father of quantum physics in Vietnam, the director of the Pasteur Institute, who when he was working, he wrote about virology, but when he retired, he applied the principle of virology to understand why the soul exists. So this kind of prominent figure, these are the figures that these new religious movement like Ho Chi Minh cult want to have some relation with. Because in this field that are still suppressed, they are the few figures the state kind of avert their eyes when they do something. So this Ho Chi Minh Cult Center in particular try to establish relationship with General Tu Phan, which is a retired lieutenant lieutenant general in the Vietnamese army who had one center to search for the war dead in Vietnam, and he specialized in parapsychology. He was he was sent to China to study war strategy in the 1960s, and I think he got caught a little bit in the Falun Gong, the Qigong fever in China. He came back with Western, he learned in China some Western theory on psychology, and he developed into parapsychology. So he's quite prominent in Vietnam, and this Cow Center want to create a relation with him, and anywhere they can flag a news that, oh, the assistant of General Chu Fang is with us today, that would be shown on TV, not on TV, on their own channel, on YouTube and so on, to show that we have relation with this male state representative. The other that they are very interested in having a cozy relationship with is a archaeologist. He is a son of one of the most prominent scientist family in Vietnam, but he's just an archaeologist. And why they are interested in him is a puzzle for me still. I could only figure out that he was quite instrumental in one apologetic movement in which he showed that Ho Chi Minh was in fact not against religion in his lifetime. So he wrote just kind of like hobby paper on Ho Chi Minh visit that and this temple, and he was interested in this and that artifact, this old status, because he's an archaeologist. So with that, make him very famous among the not yet recognized religious circle, and they all want to have him over to say something about some practice they do, like they get the water out of a cave in 100 kilometers from Hanoi, and that water is sold in massive quantity as a healing water. People drink it after worship to Uncle, and that so-called help them to get better. And they want these archaeologists to prove that this cave is a place where the Viet people was originated from, because it happened to be also one of the caves in that whole Hoa Binh complex where they found the drum and the firstborn of Viet resident and so on. So it's very important to have the support of this male state representative figure who are friendly towards popular religion, but they never accept the ruling of these men. So I have another episode I describe in the paper about how the cow leader was possessed by alcohol and answer the question posed to her by the former member of by a member of the Politburo, very high-ranking politician who want to confirm something he want to recommend to the government, but he dreamed about alcohol last night and he want to be sure whether he hear it right. So he asked alcohol today, when he's awake, alcohol come back through the body of this lady. And the mediator is a male officer who worked for cultural department before, and he got his legitimacy in this movement as a mediator between the cow's leader and all these high-ranking officer. He bring the officer in and he can talk to the leader, but the leader constantly pushes him away whenever he offer his own interpretation of the murder message that Uncle give, because it was her who bring the voice of alcohol, but it will also be her who explain the unclearness of it. So it's very subtle, very interesting, hugely interesting gender relation dimension to this couch. And I hope to say something, which is the paper I failed to deliver here, about the spiritual withdrawal of Ho Chi Minh on women body. That whole gender sexual dimension is fascinating. Yeah.
So I can't help but continually compare this to Mao and Mao's body. And one difference, it seems, was Ho Chi Minh deified before he died? Because I think of Mao as being deified even before he died. So you see pictures in Tiananmen Square of all of the Red Guards and everything. But did Ho Chi Minh have that kind of status, cult status, before he died, or was this just something afterwards? And the other thing that is interesting to me is the commercialization of this communist figure and the marketization of it. And so I remember going to Mao's body in Tiananmen Square 15 or 20 years ago, and people lined up and you could buy flowers to place at the foot, and they were fake flowers, and so you bought them,
yeah,
and they were
you
put
get
on
it
the
back.
cart. They were put on movable carts. When the cart was full, they would wheel it back up and sell the exact same flowers again. to people. I mean, it was for a communist figure to be so marketized like that. So maybe could you talk a little bit about the commercialization of this economy around?
Absolutely. This is also something. Well, on the one hand, Vietnam is a country that has a very bureaucratic kind of administrative system that costs so much of public debt. But on the other hand, the spending for this kind of activity have no limit to it. And government office would only have a separate budget that would never change. You can cut, you can fire people, but you're not going to cut the amount of money that put aside to do this ritual for uncle and for all other figure. And that is the economic factor behind this booming economy of worshipping Ho Chi Minh. Like I said, you can buy own form of status. You only need a set of outer. These are smaller one. The bigger one is, in fact, the state spending on this symbolic figure. So, for instance, in 2013 or 13, the Vietnamese government launched a program which in the next 20 years they would disseminate. I have the figure somewhere. More than 100 Ho Chi Minh Memorial Hall or Memorial Square or Memorial Park, and the scandal started when Sơn La province, which is a very poor province, one of the poorest province in Vietnam, which the average income is like still $300 per year for people. But they're going to build a Ho Chi Minh Memorial Square and Park complex that would ultimately cost about 70 million US dollars. And that creates a lot of complaints in the country, throughout the country. So, but you know, often when you build something in Vietnam, someone profit from it. So you are talking about commercial. I mean, the plastic rose is one thing. The fruit, the fresh fruit, they have to be brought into Angkor Ho out every at least twice a month or sometimes every day is another thing. But to build it, to have such a public spending to promote Ho Chi Minh cult is entire other story. In the popular sphere, where Ho Chi Minh is deified like this cow center, the commercialization aspect of it is also huge. People go there, for instance, to pay respect to the leader, listen to the teaching of Ho Chi Minh, are not obligated, but it's like unwritten rule. You have to buy this votive paper, the outer designed by the leader. Also the incense bowl, if you want to set up your own Ho Chi Minh outer at home, you need an incense bowl produced in that center because the scent that she used is blessed scent. And that normally you need maybe $3, you get a nice one out of the market, but there $30 is a usual price. One more commercial about it is also, like the spiritual products that people consume, the water, which lead to basically one reason the state can crush the cow down because they arrest the son-in-law of the cow leader for basically selling fake good at basically fraud. Yeah.
So what about before he died? Was he
before
deified?
Ho Chi Minh, now many historians have showed and argue, and I also agree with some of it, that the course of Vietnam Revolution changed after late 1940s and beginning of 1950, when the separation of North and South Vietnam become clear. The escalation of the war that would become Vietnam War become clear. There are fractions that appear in the party. Ho Chi Minh, in many historians, including those from the West here, argue there is a lost moment when America and Vietnam could be friends. And Ho Chi Minh was instrumental in that. He sent letter to the U.S. and tried to create relation with the U.S., but these letter got lost and ignored. Therefore, the course of history changed differently, and the two countries become full instead of friends. whether this, to what extent these evidence are representative, I'm not talking about, but the fact that Ho Chi Minh has only been seen as more middle, neutral, revolutionary. In fact, he's not the, according to many people, he's not the hardcore militaristic fraction in the Communist Party. But as Vietnam War escalates, that means that there are fractions that are dominant in the party, and so the argument, the statement is that Ho Chi Minh lost his power even when he was still in the party. The party, those who really run the country, turn him into a paperhead figure. He is alive, but he's more like a how you say, a puppet. Well, not a puppet, but he's there without much power. And for that reason, the deification of him did happen when he was alive. He was instrumental in the building of his own personality cult. He wrote so many so-called story about this great figure Ho Chi Minh, but he wrote it himself. So he's very good in self-promoting him to the public, and when he lost his power, he also lost the control over the figure that he built, the image he built of himself. And that's why I don't think the commercialization of him happened the same way that it was with Mao, because Mao did not, I don't know whether Mao told people to wave the red hat, the red book, but he's more distant from it. Ho Chi Minh was very involved, therefore he actually had no power over it. Yeah. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really similar in so many ways to Mao. I think it should be interesting to explore the relationship between the state cult side versus the folk cult side. It's not the same. The state trying to suppress this popular cult side, but at the same time they cannot give up the state cult side.
Yeah.
They continue to promote that. So we have documented the statue of Mao on university campuses in China. It's expanding. There are more, but at the same time they try to suppress the folk religious cult. In my province, Hebei province, back in the 1990s, there were hundreds of 纪念堂 as a memorial.
Yeah, 纪念堂, 纪念.
So they do not call that temple.
Memorial,
It can be just similar to the mausoleum in Beijing. All the state printed portraits, and not very religious in that sense. It's all try to imitate what the state has put out.
Yeah.
Right? So when officials come, they will say, oh, we just do a memorial hall of Mao, right? So it's no different from yours. But privately, they would have this religious meaning in that. So people do pray to Mao for healing of their kids or do other things. But there's also, I think the dynamics should, how much the state cult feed into the folk cult, and the folk cult may in certain way support the state cult. If you can see something about that, should be interesting. There's so many things, so many similar. I think in our book, the Atlas book, we included a story of a Mao temple. I think it's in Jiangxi. I don't remember the exact location. Probably Jiangxi province. The reason they built a temple of Mao is there was a temple of other gods, but the temple, not priest, or what do we call it?
Abbot.
Not really abbot. It's folk religious. It's a Kanmiao, the temple attendant.
Keeper.
Keeper. The keeper. The keeper. The wife had a dream. So Mao came and told me we need to have a Mao hall added. Then Mao became the main hall, the main figure, but also had Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, and also Zhou Enlai, Zhu De, you know, it's a big hall, now in the middle, the others on the side. So this spirit medium phenomena is so similar. This is not a question, just made me think about that. But there is something uniquely Mao, the personality called it. There is a personality. In some of the folk temples, for example, one actually a researcher, a fieldwork researcher went and saw people in front of the Mao statue. They did not burn incense sticks, but had the cigarettes. Because Mao smoked heavily, and people would light a cigarette and put
in
this
his hand.
in his in his hand.
In his hand,
Rather than put in front of you know. So that's, you know, it's so uniquely Mao, right? The personality shows there. I don't know whether the similar things happen with Uncle Ho.
Uncle Ho also is a heavy smoker, and it was, I think, at the time of Mao, not Mao Bro, but many other. It is a mark of the time. You are only cool when you are sitting around with a cigarette. But the funny thing is that, well, now you are giving another example, which I think if we ever do this comparatively, there should be one part of the project that look at the materialities of these couch and how the state use it, how the people use it. And there are two things about cigarette in Vietnam. Cigarette. As a country that now really overwhelmingly controlled by this couch of matter, that all these young men who die in war, what people bring to the grave or to temple that worship this matter are secret, indeed. So if I go to a cemetery together with burning incense, they also burn incense, but there would always be a cigarette burned and put on the top of the incense and stuck on the on the grave, because the idea of this young man die, the young man loves cigarettes, and so at least it's something soothing that you can offer to them. Uncle also smoked cigarettes, but because of the form of status that they use to venerate him are chosen from a few truths. These are either painting or picture, historical picture. So the moment he stands waving at the people, it's hard to put a cigarette up there. Or when they are with a smaller budget, they only have a half body plaster. I don't know where to put a cigarette in. But there are cigarette packets that are included on the table, where fruit and candy, and I don't think they put Coca-Cola. They don't do Coca-Cola for Ho Chi Minh. No, they don't do Coca-Cola for Ho Chi Minh.
Yes, too American.
But Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Yes, this kind of thing. So these are very interesting little detail. Fruit, of course, always this what we call the Buddha hand fruit. These are very common, popular fruit for offerings.
So what happens to that fruit then?
You cannot eat it. These are useless fruit, only for the beauty, unless you make one kind of soup which is too sweet for my taste. But
all of the other stuff, so like oranges or anything.
They do consume it, but these are things that. So if you go to a temple and you make your own worship, then after you wait until the incense is done, you take the fruit back and it's a blessing. But because if you go to this kind of cow central, which is so hectic and so busy on this day, on those days, that most of the normally people do not go there on every day, but they go on this ritual day, and these are moments. If you are lucky, you have maybe 3 minutes in front of alcohol. So people are forced to stand in queue, and these queue are kilometer long, and you wait, and with your offering, you put it down, you put the money down, then you have to get out because the queue will go on. And talking about commercialization, In China, they sell this rose, but in Vietnam, you just put down money. All these poor peasants who go in and they're not forced to, but they are forced by others who are doing these things. So if you go there and your neighbor offer $25 and you don't do that, you look very low to the living, but also what does a God think? So people put down this note in this big aluminum tray, and I observed it for 1 or 2 days in several occasions. These are, I don't know how many million or billion. These are every half an hour a tray is full with money and out the whole day like that. Yeah, it's no wonder Vietnamese state denounce it counts as economic fraud because they really expensive, beautiful toilet.
Okay. Yeah, I want to add some a personal aspect. Some years after I went to college, my mother told me she made a divination using Chairman Mao's spirit before I took the exam to get an entrance. So that became popular already in the rural areas. Of course, later on she became a Christian. Then my brothers, my third brother, this is maybe 10, 15 years ago, when I visited China, he gave me a Mao badge in gold.
Oh.
So that's another, not an officially promoted thing, but many people do that. He's in the government. And of course, my eldest brother now, he is a big fan of Chairman Mao. So it's in my family, it's there. So are there those people in your family or you're very close, they are really very much involved in this?
Oh, absolutely. I was 5 years old and I was very good kid. I learned to do ABC, and in the communist system, you are from the age of 4, you go to kindergarten. You already have this contest how many flags you can put in the box. The more you have, the more it's so that you are a good kid. To when you are in basics, in primary school to high school, there is an annual selection for the best granddaughter or grandchildren of Uncle Ho. So someone about Ho. And if you are the best in your province, or actually more by how much your parents have influence in the province, then you get also selected to bus in Hanoi or take a train to Hanoi for 1 day, visit the mausoleum and get this kind of outing. And I was one of the a good granddaughter of Uncle when I was 5 years old. But I only remember a nauseating trip down to Hanoi with a train. Then my family, of course, is I have an interesting family. Half of it is totally red, like scarlet red. We are so proud of it. And the other family basically were killed in the land reform. So these are quite a contrast of the story of the scarlet red part are dominant and also visible in the performance of the children. So my aunt and uncle are all in government. But in the government, they have the red tourism. So every year, the Công Đoàn, the worker union, would organize a tour. They don't organize a strike and web changes, but they organize tour for you. And you go to one of the popular destinations to visit the hometown of Ho Chi Minh. This is quite a trip from a border province like mine to Nghệ An, which is about 700-800 kilometers from distance. And when you are in the hometown of Ho Chi Minh, you visit the birthplace and so on and so forth. There's always this souvenir. So the liu nian shop run by the state or by people who just build it, make a copy and sell it. These are, like you said, this not amulet, not you say the
hat,
yes, we have the same badge. Yeah, but people buy it and use it the way they use an amulet. They hang it in car.
Right.
So when they drive, they have this hang, and some people buy a dozen or 10 dozen of it and give it away. affordable. So I got several of it, and also it with economic change. And first it was a simple cloth made or like plastic paper made, but now you can have also one crystal. Or very hard plastic, but really high quality with 3 dimensions, and it's all kind of design that can. There is enough space for creativity. One word.
But that has been, I think, for every religion a major element. So commercialization.
Yeah.
That sounds like a negative thing because of some Protestant response to Catholic pilgrimages, etc. But it was always the case, and it's not something to be rejected or something.
Yeah.
It was always there. So you have a center, and of course they will produce all kinds of stuff, and of course there will be a lot of money involved. It's always there.
But there is also now because Võ Nguyên Giáp died, General Giáp died. So there are temples that start to add it. Võ Nguyên Giáp and Trường Chinh. Trường Chinh is another communist leader. So when you mention there is this temple in Jiangxi with General Chu De. By the way, General Chu De lived in Göttingen for 4 years to learn military. Yeah.
And then he was kicked out and went to Russia. But he wanted to know Prussian army technique, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But they added more and more of this communist figure.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, thank you, Tam, for
Yeah,
this
this
interesting
is
talk.
fascinating.
Thank you.